We're back with the next step on the deep dive into Final Fantasy X's official timeline. So far, we've looked at a span of time, ranging from 3,000 years ago all the way to 100 years ago. If you missed those videos, the playlist for this video series will be popping up in a card on screen right now, or you can check out the video description for the link. Otherwise, we'll be picking up where we left off, beginning with Spira 50 years ago, and going all the way up to 20 years before the game's beginning. 50 years ago, and we finally get into a realm of familiar faces, starting with Yo Micah becomes Grand Maester of Yevon. And of course, Grand Maester Micah remains a looming presence even in the events prior to Final Fantasy X, serving as both the unsent foil and the head of the Temple of Yevon. But seriously, 50 years as a Final Fantasy X's equivalent of the Pope? That's a long time to be running the show. 35 years ago, Auron is born. You know, I feel like Final Fantasy has a habit of getting the crusty old warrior archetype totally wrong. Auron, the grizzled, battle-worn warrior monk, was what, 35? Come on. And Steiner from FF9, the clunky over-the-hill knight, a whopping 33. Seriously, devs, you're way off the mark. You're aiming for Clint Eastwood, and you're barely hitting Bruce Willis on a bad day. In any case, Final Fantasy X's resident badass, and many a fan's favorite character, Auron, is born. He rises through the ranks to become a highly celebrated warrior monk of Yevon, only to throw it all away when he refuses an arranged marriage with a Yevon priestess. Cast aside for his defiance, Auron finds a new purpose, becoming the steadfast guardian of Braska, and later, Yuna, ensuring that his legacy would be carved into Spira's history, even in death. 28 years ago, Seymour Guado is born to Jiskel Guado and a human woman. Yeah, that's kind of wild when you think about it. Seymour always feels more like Yuna's generational counterpart, but at 28, he's closer in age to Auron than he is to Yuna. It also reframes his dynamic with Auron. Instead of an older mentor versus young villain setup, it's more like two veterans of Spira's harsh reality. One who chose duty and honor, Auron, and one who embraced corruption and power, Seymour. That adds some extra depth to their different philosophies. Seymour, instead of bridging the gap between humans and Guado, ended up as an outcast in both societies. Too Guado for humans, too human for the Guado. That kind of rejection and isolation at a young age probably did a number on his psyche. Yeah, that backfired pretty hard. What's tragic about all this is that Jiskel genuinely wanted peace between the races, but by forcing the issue, he created someone who would later embrace the darkest aspects of Yevon's teachings. Seymour didn't just want unity, he wanted to end all suffering, in the most twisted way possible. If Jiskel had played it differently, do you think Seymour would have turned out the same, or could he have been someone completely different? 25 years later, Jiskel becomes the leader of the Guado and spreads Yevon's teachings to the tribe. It all makes sense from a political standpoint. Aligning with Yevon meant stability, security, and a place in the dominant religious order of Spira. But you have to wonder how much of Jiskel's decision was influenced by how the Guado treated Seymour. Maybe he saw Yevon as a way to integrate the Guado more fully into Spiran society, making them less isolated and less likely to repeat the kind of rejection his son experienced. Of course, it also set the stage for Seymour's later power grab. As Jiskel's son and a half-human, half-Guado, Seymour was uniquely positioned to rise through the ranks of both societies, but instead of using that position to unite people, he twisted it into his own nihilistic ambitions. Do you think Yevon ever truly accepted the Guado, or were they seen as outsiders despite their alliance? Kimahri Ronso is born. Our favorite Ronso runt is born at the Ronso community on Mount Gagazet. The Ronso celebrate strength above all, and as such, the diminutive Kimahri, who still seems pretty large to scale compared to humans, isn't really seen as being an ideal warrior for the tribe. 23 years ago, Wakka is born. Growing up on the island of Besaid, Wakka was forced into a caregiver role far too soon, After losing both of his parents while he and his younger brother Chapu were still children, the tight-knit Besaid community helped them get by, but the hardships of orphanhood left a lasting mark, reinforcing Waka's unwavering devotion to Yevon, a faith that, as we see throughout the game, manifests in stubborn, sometimes outright bigoted beliefs. Yet, beneath that rigid doctrine lies a warm-hearted, well-meaning man. His natural instinct to protect extends beyond his brother, as he becomes a steadfast guardian figure for both Yuna and Tidus on their journey. The Besaid Aurochs lose in the first round of the Blitzball tournament at Luca. This starts a 23-year losing streak. In the game, it's explicitly stated that the Besaid Aurochs have never won a single match. Given their staggering 23-year losing streak, it stands to reason that the team itself may have only been around for that long. With Besaid's lack of proper facilities and its remote location making travel to the mainland difficult, the Aurochs likely had far fewer opportunities to practice in a real Blitzball stadium or compete against seasoned teams. Yet, despite their abysmal record, the villagers' supportive nature shines through in the team's endearingly humble motto, "To do our best." 22 years ago, Lulu is born. The party's black mage, Lulu, is also born in Besaid, just a year after Waka, and like him, loses her parents to Sin in an attack. Growing up alongside Waka and his younger brother Chapu, she develops a sharp, no-nonsense demeanor that sets her apart. While Waka takes on the role of a warm and protective older brother, Lulu embodies a more stern, maternal presence, offering measured, pragmatic advice, but revealing a softer, more caring side when it truly matters. In the next part of this video series, we'll be continuing where we left off, with the events of Spira's history approximately 20 years before the game kicks off. The next video will be a comprehensive explanation of the direct events leading up to Final Fantasy X's story, and I look forward to joining you on that particular history lesson. Otherwise, Final Fantasy videos you can click through to are popping up on screen right now.